All right, well, let's get rolling. Hello, everyone. Uh, Good afternoon, or 6 o'clock for me. I know it's 3 o'clock for a lot of you. Hope lunch is good and everything. If you're having a good day, I would like to present to you all the Nickturn panel. And Nickturn is just what we like to call our interns over here at Nickelodeon Animation. Um, and today we're just gonna have a pretty open dialogue about career exploration, all of our individual paths to Nickelodeon, how um, we sort of forged those paths. I have the wonderful Darian with me and Alexander. And I mean, with that being said, I think we should just roll straight in. And we should let's just start off. Introduce yourselves a little bit, your department, maybe where you went to school, pronouns, our usual rundown, and let's start with one fun fact as well. My name is Harold Anderson. I intern with Carson Smith in the Community Efforts Department. I started interning with Carson last summer, and I formerly interned with Viacom CBS. Well, now Paramount. Well, actually, when I started, we were still just Viacom. But Paramount Corporate Social Responsibility in New York. Um, my pronouns are he, him, his. Uh, And fun fact, oh yeah, where I went to school. I just graduated about 3 weeks ago now from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm from Philadelphia, grew up in West Philly. Uh, Fun fact about me, I started playing football and wrestling in sixth grade, and I played up until senior year of high school. And in between my time of soft freshman year of high school and my senior year of high school, I managed to just about break or badly injure every last one of my fingers. So my hands are in not the best conditions for the rest of my life, but it's all right because I stopped while I'm ahead and I still have both my hands. So now I'm doing work that's much more gentler on my hands. Um, with that, I'll kick it over to Alexander.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Alex. Thanks for having me here. Alex or Alexander doesn't matter really. I use him, his pronouns. I am. Oh my gosh,
There we
there
go.
I am. Okay. So I use him, his pronouns. I'm originally from San Francisco, now living in Los Angeles. I go to the USC, it's the University of Southern California. I study art and animation, and I've been interning with Nickelodeon for oh gosh, a while, almost a year now, actually. I started off in artist management, which is like internal recruitment, and now I work in production on Transformers Earthspark, which is super exciting. And a fun fact, I'm so bad at fun facts. My fun fact is I wrote a paper on B movie for a critical theory class that I had to take over the um, over spring of last semester, and I got a good grade on it, surprisingly. So follow your dreams, write whatever you want. Does not matter. Okay, I mean it does matter. Anyway, Darian, shut me up.
Hey everyone, I'm Darian. My pronouns are she, her. I am from Oxnard, California, interning with the recruitment team, currently working on my master's degree in visual development. And yeah, I should be done with that soon. Give it like 2 more months. That's been a long road. Fun fact, let's see, I own fancy chickens. I have like a flock of fancy chickens. So if you think chickens just come in one form, they don't. There's some fun ones out there. Like some have, afros, some have sorry, that's my dog. She's singing. Hang on. Yeah. She likes to sing along with the mailman. So yeah. Lots of fancy chickens in my yard. But yeah, so the dog is downstairs making. She's on patrol right now, making sure the mailman doesn't steal our mail. All right, so we'll start kicking it off with just some general intern information, things that we do. So since I'm full speed ahead right now, like I said, I'm with the recruitment department, and with that comes I'm under an umbrella of more teams. So there's our talent development team as well as the outreach team, and sometimes I help out with community efforts. I feel like I help with a lot of people, and I'm not complaining whatsoever. It's great because you get to know so many people in the studio, and my everyday ranges from attending production meetings, just seeing what talent is needed around the studio for current or upcoming things. I actually do graphic design work, a little bit of illustrative work as well, and administrative work. I don't know if that entails anything for y'all, but it's, Excel sheets, understanding how to schedule stuff, and things like that. So I'll give it back to Harold so he can talk a little bit about what he does.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I also work under the umbrella of teams that Darian just described within community efforts. Again, with Carson Smith, and the bulk of my day to day looks like assisting Carson with all of our primarily arts education, social initiatives. So we do a lot of animation mentorship programs. We do a lot of animation boot camps. We do a lot of what we're doing now, which is Nickturn panels. Having these career exploration conversation and dialogues with students involved with our community partners that are closest in age to us. Um, we also do a lot of what we call let's draws. So those are sessions where we partner with a number of community partners, primarily with a nonprofit called the Lollipop Theater, um, which provide entertainment options for children that are recovering in hospitals. And every Thursday for an hour, we bring them one of our Nickelodeon artists to draw with the children. And most days they're wanting to draw SpongeBob, but sometimes we get a few variants in there. Um, and the culmination of what we do is trying to, one, I think, build pathways and break down barriers to create the next generation of storytellers, and making sure that um that looks the same across the board for everyone, no matter what background you come from. And that's something that's been a big part of my story, just coming where I come from. And that is just like, that's it for me. Social impact is just a big part of who I am. And then on the other side, I'm just a fanboy at heart of animation and cartoons. And I've probably spent like way too much time in front of a TV screen growing up for my own good. As you can see, I got my Naruto shirt on for all my fans out there. um so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. And I'll pass it back over to Alexander.
Alrighty, thanks, Harold. So yeah, like I said earlier, I'm the production intern for Transformers Earthspark. If y'all got to see the teaser, it's out now. It's like 12 seconds long, but I don't know. I still think it looks pretty cool. Um, so because I'm in production, there are like lots of different aspects of an animated show that like need to get done. So anything from like the actual animation itself to models, like the models that move around the scene and stuff, to sound to script. So basically, my job is to help out whoever needs help whenever they need help. We call it putting out the little fires because it's often very hectic, but it is super, super fun, hectic stuff. Um, so some of the things I'll do are like asset exports and breakdowns so that the animators know like when to put in certain models and characters and assets and whatnot. Um, Lots of script reviews. Sometimes I'll record some scratch dialogue, which is temporary dialogue that will never see the light of day, thank goodness, because I am not a voice actor. Um, but it just kind of gives the animators an idea of like what a character will say at what time, so they know kind of how to like time it out. Um, and I'll also help out with something called cast reports. So the cast reports are often used by somebody who works in our DEI department, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, just to make sure that Transformers and a lot of our other productions are on track in terms of representation and diversity, exactly what it sounds like. And the good news is we are. Transformers is doing pretty well in that regard. So super excited for y'all to see that, not only because we're representing like a much more diverse cast than before, but also because it looks beautiful. It's a great story. It's going to be a great time. So that's exciting.
I think the great thing about hearing from Nickterns is you get to hear about the diverse jobs in animation other than being an animator or like a storyboard artist or, biz dev. there's so many things that people don't really get to hear about. And um, I think our three positions are prime examples of the fun stuff that we get to do, other than just drawing characters sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The Nickternship program, as a whole, is also coming together to give us the opportunity to learn about these different positions and to explore our interests and things of that nature. So we're often having just classes with executives from shows, writers from shows, artists from other shows, learning about the entire animation pipeline and what it takes to get a product from start to finish, from pitching to developing to, again, writing to storyboarding to animating, um, the whole thing. And I think it would also be very, very interesting for us to just go a little bit into what our interests are just generally in animation and Nickelodeon. And what was it that started your path to coming here?
Well, from an early age, right? Like you really connected with cartoons. I would say the same for you too, Alex. It was an outlet for I think a lot of us, and those that come into animation, we generally have similar interests, and it's like finding that group of people who truly understand you and understand the stuff you want to put out in the world, and it's putting out the good, and you know doing for kids today what was done for you. That's my opinion. Um, like Harold and I have had some great conversations about, the show Hey Arnold. That was such a '90s show, but that's what we grew up on. And just the friendships and the diverse family that Arnold had, and it's something that really resonated with me, and it made me want to be a good person, just like Arnold, right,
Absolutely.
Alex?
Yeah, definitely feel that. Like, kind of building off that too. Like, kind of like what you said, Darian. Like, everybody's in animation for a reason. Most of us are here because we love this medium. It's one of our favorite things ever, and we probably all grew up on a couple shows or games or whatever that like really got us into that. So like, I don't know. For me, it was obviously like SpongeBob, but also I was an Arthur kid, PBS kids because I did not have cable. And also Animaniacs. So we're talking '90s shows. Animaniacs slap so hard, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, it really is that love that just brings us all together. And like we said earlier, like the Nicktoonship program is great because you get to see so many different folks who work in so many different areas to make these wonderful pieces of media possible, right? And like there's such a wide breadth of stories that you can tell with animation, and I think it's that love that just brings us all closer and just gets us also excited to see like what's up, like what shows and stories can we tell, and how's that going to influence like the next generation? Like how is that really going to like teach kids like now or even like adults now because like hey I still watch cartoons, right? Like what lessons that can instill in them. And I don't know, I always say animation is like the childlike dream I never let die. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure Harold and Darian feel me here. This is a dream that I want to see through, so that's what's exciting to me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, again, it already feels like a dream come true. Um, Especially as a kid, not necessarily understanding that this is a career. This is something that you can do, and very much like Chris was saying earlier. If anyone here was on the storyboard session, um, it doesn't take a lot to get started. It takes your interest. This is something that I came upon maybe sophomore year of college. And because I was introduced to this program at school called the STEP program, and that stands for the Successful Transition and Empowerment Program, and it's for students coming into Penn from marginalized community and marginalized backgrounds to sort of help them get a leg up before school starts. And we took a business trip out to New York that following summer. And Viacom was the first business we ended up going to, and we got to hear from a bunch of Penn alumni, one of which was Scott Mills, the president and CEO of VET right now. He's actually going to be speaking at my graduation in the fall. I just found that out. It's kind of, it's themes of a lot of things coming full circle in our stories. And on that first trip there, I think I really just resonated with the work environment and the employee culture there. And again, coming to the full understanding that there's not, one person behind the screen. There's thousands of people behind the screen. And again, everybody doesn't draw, everybody doesn't write. And, for me, it was again marrying what I understand as the impact that media has with my love for, again, taking care of marginalized community, giving agency and voices to marginalized communities, um, especially, going towards, again, creating stories that are like the ones that impacted me as a kid growing up. And um, just to sort of pivot over now into what that tangibly looked like, and sort of speaking to the recruitment and interview processes and stuff like that. Um, I make a point to say that it takes time and it takes a lot of patience to make these things come to fruition. And for me, visiting that first day that summer, it took up about a year until I was able to even apply for the Viacom internship program at that time. And I spent that year making connections on LinkedIn, making connections to recruiters. Every time Viacom was doing an info session on campus, I made sure I was there connecting with people. If I saw someone beforehand, making sure that they remembered me from the first time. Um, and through that year of really networking and building all these connections up, that started to, one, I think, build my own personal power and being able to establish what it is that's going to set me apart and make me stand out in these processes. But then two, um, getting yourself on the radar again way before you are applying, seeking to get hired, seeking to getting to an internship program, because that shows commitment and an interest on your side. Um, so, Darian and Alex, is there anything in particular about your recruitment process, about your interview, that you think is important to share to all the students here today?
For me, it was important to be myself, to get them to uh, for the recruiters to know my personality. And it's not just you seeing if you're a right fit for their team, but you also want to make sure that you are a right fit for their team. Did I say that right? Yeah. Okay. um, because I mean, there's a lot of internships, and you want to make sure you have a vested interest in what you're applying to. Uh, so all the questions that kind of came out, I thought I was well prepared for them. And when it came down to it, some threw me off, and all I could do was be honest. And the honesty is what got me here. I honestly think my favorite question on I this is the one question I remember from the interview. It was, if you could be any salad dressing, what would you be and why? So there's always those fun questions too, and those always throw you off as well, right? Like, I think I had a Harry Potter question once, and I was like, oh no, are they going to judge me because what Harry Potter house I'm in? But Alex, what were your thoughts on the interview process?
Well, as somebody who never grew up in the Harry Potter series, I always freak out when people are like, "Oh, what Harry Potter house for you?" It's like I don't even know what this means. So, Anyway, that aside, definitely agree with Darren and Harold there. Being yourself is super, super important. I think something to keep in mind too is that animation is hard. Like, of course, it's fun, right? We're all doing cartoons. We're all like in the process of making these great shows, these great productions. It's wonderful, but it's not easy. And I feel like to be in this industry, from what I've seen, you do need a lot of commitment and a lot of excitement for this role because there are going to be late nights. There are going to be days when, even though you're doing this great job, you're going to roll out of bed and be like, yep, it's work. I need my coffee, right? And in order to get through that, like the thing that often helps me push through is that I know that I love the thing that I'm doing and it's so, so wonderful. But yeah, it's a little bit hard. So even in the interview, like making sure that you show that you have that passion, it not only shows that this is a part of who you are, it's a part of what you love to do, but it also proves that when it comes down to it, when the going gets rough, you're still going to be there for your team because you're all dedicated to this one goal of making sure that this gets out the door in its best state possible, and that you're going to do whatever you can to make sure that it gets out that way. which means helping out your team, sometimes pulling a little bit more of the weight, right? But just because it's not easy doesn't mean it's not fun. It's kind of like that nice balance of making sure that, it's great, it's wonderful, but you also have to take it seriously. And it's a fine balance that I think is very unique to entertainment, and art in general, but it's something that's especially present in the world of animation. Hopefully, it didn't sound too scary. It's still great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I think that's, you know, part of shaping, the next path for people coming, after you is letting them know really how it is and what to expect. And I think that again, with needing um patience and needing to understand that you have to put the time in and the effort and the work and the commitment, um it does pay off, and people recognize that, to Alex and Darian's point of like, one, you have to know yourself, know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, take time figuring out what it is that you want and committing to that, and then, also understanding that there are other human beings on the other process to this as well. So there are going to be times where, you know you think things may not add up, you're going to get a lot of no's, and it's going to seem like, people may not want you, or people may not um value you or appreciate you, and it's not always, that black and white, that clear of what's actually going on in the process. So again, it's really a thing of understanding, just the process and connecting with people and talking to people and really seeking to get that knowledge and that foresight to, again, put your best foot forward, and people are going to recognize that. And I think it definitely shines in interviews and in recruitment processes when people have that genuine energy and aspects to them, and that shines through in their personalities. But with that, I think we can move on to the next question. And what are some, intern best practices, do's, don'ts of once you get into the door and you're starting a new position? Um, and yeah, you're trying to, just trying to figure out the landscape, figure out what it is you need to do to um, have as best of a intern period as possible.
One thing that my supervisor from artist management told me, Brittany, Darian, and Harold, who we all know is amazing. She was like, "You have to be a yes and person. Um, like you're gonna get a lot of new stuff thrown at you, and a lot of it will be probably be very new if you never worked in animation before. I know that I barely had, right? And I don't know if y'all have taken improv before because that's kind of where this comes from. I'm not a theater person by any stretch of the imagination, but it's kind of that idea of like no matter what gets thrown your way, you have to approach it with kind of like that can do attitude, right? Be like, yeah, I can do this. And how do you want me to figure it out? Offer up your own solutions, be the problem solver. Um, Especially when you're an intern, everything is going to be new. This whole world, all the people you're working with, probably the company culture, right? And there's nothing wrong with that as long as you communicate that, hey, like I'm a little confused on this thing, or I like don't really know like what I should do here. Do you have any suggestions? It's totally fine. People in animation generally are very friendly, but as long as you like, you can't outright reject these things, right? Because you're there to help out, as like just like they're there to help you. So yes, and your way through an internship, and that's already a great first step.
For me, for the internships, it was always being prepared and um, always trying to learn like the tasks that are ahead of you, the next thing, because that's gonna help you continue to move forward. And you gotta soak everything in that you're learning, because you're surrounded by a bunch of industry professionals, right? And especially internships are very entry level roles. So they brought you on for your talents, and at the same time, you want to absorb as much talent as possible. If that makes sense. And an important thing that we learned, I think, is letting your supervisors know what your goal is at the studio, what you want to do, because just because you're in one role doesn't necessarily mean you want to go down that route, right? So say you entered recruiting and you get to learn about it, but you've always been drawn to art. You want to be a prop designer. Let your supervisors know so they can help you move forward. They can, show you what art tests are and connect you with the right people on productions who are maybe looking for a prop designer or networking with prop designers so you understand how to get that job done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on top of that, I would definitely add one, just making sure to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with not knowing, so absolutely put yourself out there, ask questions if you don't know anything, ask questions if you need clarification, if something didn't come through clearly. um, and then I think also just not overlooking the small things. I think that it takes a while to build trust between you and your team, and for me, um, it became a lot easier to build trust when I started out finding all the little things I could do to help the team. So whether that was scheduling a meeting, whether that was finding, a venue location for an event, whether it was, doing outreach, hopping on the phone with organizations, whether it was, running point on a event because the rest of the team is double booked or something like that. And again, all of that will come. It will start to build up with time, but not overlooking what you can do in that time to effectively help your team be successful is another really great tactic when you're starting out as an intern. And you'll see as you begin to, display that ability to be trusted to your team through your actions, they'll in turn be able to give you bigger tasks, bigger projects, bigger commitments, that are again going to reflect that they are now instilling their trust within you. Thank you. These are my gaming headphones. um, they're going to start putting that trust in you, and it's going to feel good to be reassured and to start building, also that personal connection with your team as well, because it just feels better. It feels nice to work with people you can trust and to go to and say, hey, Harold, I need you to take care of this, and know that it's going to get done. And if there's anything I need to get done, then I'm going to reach out to do that. But I think definitely as an intern, it's very hard to feel confident in doing that. It's very hard to, feel scared reaching out to people and really um, knowing that you have that agency and that there are people near you and around you that are more than happy to give their time helping. So next, I think we could, go into what are some important things to remember and practice when you're networking and you're reaching out to people to, one, again, boost your confidence in what you're saying and what you're asking for, and knowing that's okay. Um, but then two, I think also just making it as easy as possible for other people to buy in and take the time that they want to out of their schedules to help us as interns.
I totally agree with you, Harold, on that. And a lot of people are busy from what we've learned as our time here. So even if you can just get an email response or, a 5-minute coffee chat with someone, it's all about the etiquette and just, again, making sure you're prepared for those moments. Because you don't want to go into a meeting and not really know what you're asking, right? Because you have 5 minutes, and that 5 minutes you want to get as much out of it as you can. And I think they do a really good job. Our Nickturn team, who oversee us, they do a really good job with informationals and connecting us with those people. Um, Luckily, we get, I think, more than 5 minutes, usually an hour or so. And honestly, every time I'm taking notes diligently, because everything that they say is something that I can apply in the future, and it's going to help mold me as a person, help me grow, and then it's going to help me pay it forward. Thank you. I have too many hats. Alex, do you want to touch on it?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, like, honestly, don't be afraid to reach out to people. People love talking about themselves. I don't even mean that in a narcissistic way. I mean that, like, people love, like, going over their life story to, like, help folks out. And remember, this is animation. We're all here for a reason. That's probably because we're all geeks and nerds. I mean that in the most loving way possible. I mean, look at my wall. I clearly am. But yeah, honestly, like when I was starting out, I reached out to like 24 people and I got responses from like two. And that's already like a pretty good response rate. And it's not like people are like, oh, I don't want to talk to this kid. That they're so annoying. It's not like that, right? It's probably that they're busy, like Darian said. Artists are incredibly busy people. Um, and like maybe it's just like a different time of day thing. Don't overthink it. Don't take it personally. Just keep reaching out, keep learning about people's experiences, and be willing to talk about your story as well. What you want to do, whether it's in animation or more broadly as like an artist or like even in your career, like what inspired you. And maybe like, I don't know, don't be afraid to ask like questions that obviously don't be like too forward. Like don't cross any boundaries, but don't be afraid to get honest. Like it's probably totally fine. And likely people will tell you, hey, I can't talk about that if that happens, but don't be afraid. It all goes back to being yourself and being super transparent, right? Because especially when you're working with people this often in animation, like people are going to want to talk to those folks who are generally pleasant to be around, but also like are like again honest people, communicative people, and that all starts with that first intro email, where again like intro your like talk about yourself, intro yourself, but also talk about the person a little bit, let them know like you kind of broadly know what they do or like ask what they do, show interest in them, all the good email etiquette tips, which is a whole other can of worms, but lots of resources online to look that up as well. How about you, Harold?
Yeah, I think for me, I would say just to piggyback on everything that's been said, definitely. Um, I think just being genuine, and again, just understanding that when you're connecting with people, not to make it so transactional, and understand that if you're willing to genuinely express interest in someone else, their livelihood, they're going to show that back. And again, to Alex's point, um, that people like to talk about themselves. Oh, excuse me. Again, that's that reassurance that just feels good, and it feels wonderful to have someone else, be as invested in what you do as you are. And again, that'll open the gates for people again wanting to share their expertise, their resources, their story, whatever it takes with you. And it is never, again, should be framed as, hey, I'm connecting with you um, because I want you to do this for me, or I think you can do this for me. It really should be framed as oh, I see that this is what you're doing, and I have an interest in doing that. I would love to hear how you got here. I would love to hear your story. Um, just finding something to genuinely connect with the other person, and it doesn't have to be, work related. Again, when I was doing, my own recruitment, I was just on LinkedIn searching for anyone who worked at Viacom that also went to Penn or was maybe from Philadelphia or something like that. And again, finding that mutual contact point for you to connect with that person and take it from there. And again, this also is something that takes time and it takes patience for your network to come to a point to where it can serve you the way that you need it to. But that again comes with you putting that time in, you putting that effort in, that commitment, and that comes off the strength of again you treating other people like human beings the way you honestly want them to treat you. And that's the way I have approached networking in my early career, and it has worked great for me. And I think that those first impressions are what helps the strength of your network down the road, because within animation and within a lot of different sectors and industries, um it works sort of like a network. And when there's positions to be filled, when there's stuff to be done, you know, people think of, people that they know off the top of their head. And to make yourself within that list of people, you can't rub people the wrong way. You can't come off selfish. You can't come off disingenuine. You can't come off as not interested in, again, their livelihood. Um, but if you, again, convey the opposite, if you be you, if you are genuine and wanting to add this person to your network for the benefit of both of you, then again, when you're looking for a job, or if there's a job to be found, and someone say, hey, I spoke to this kid and we had a wonderful conversation about recruitment or storyboarding or writing or whatever the case may be, I want to give this kid a shot. That's that's the beauty of it. And again, I think that is the blessing of time, and again, just being committed. And on the topic of networking, I think that having strong people in your corner is also what has tremendously helped me in my young career. If you want to call them guides, mentors, whatever the case may be, something that's also very stressed without throughout the Nickterns program is seeking mentorship and seeking someone that you can genuinely connect to start your network or add to your network. Um, and having a strong tie within your network, because all everyone in your network isn't going to have the strongest ties to you. It's not going to be you know someone you can call up any day of the week, or something like that, or your favorite boss, favorite manager, or whatever. But you should have at least one or two people at the very least, and that could be developed a lot through mentorship. So Gary and Alex, is there any experiences with mentorship with guys that you can speak to? Any advice or tips about how to go about seeking mentors, and which you should look for in a mentor?
Alex, are we looking at each other?
I saw us both do that head tilt. I was like, are we thinking the same thing? I think I can talk first if you want. But if Darian, if you have better words than me, please go
I
for it.
I, I can also start. I can also start
You
giving
know
you
what? Go
guys some
for it,
time to
Harold.
think. I think that for me, I think my sense of searching for guides and searching for mentorships could in a way be connected back to my past with playing sports, and having strong coaches in my corner. And I was involved, well, I joined a nonprofit organization called Beat the Streets in sixth grade, which is a sports-based youth development organization that works with inner city, middle, and high school, to create wrestling programs free of charge for students to join, while also creating a network of holistic support off the mat. So they offer, mentoring, counseling, tutoring from their offices or mentoring centers throughout the city. And I started as a wrestler in sixth grade, went on to be a mentor and advocate, spokesperson for Beat the Streets. And I recently just founded with some other alumni a youth ambassador program for the organization, to serve as a more on the ground resource hub for our student athletes and their communities. All that said, you know, wrestling in particular, than the other sports I played in, is definitely a very close knit community. A lot of the coaches know each other, a lot of the wrestlers know each other, stuff like that. So I got a lot of my first mentorship experience from Beat the Streets, and it was me connecting with this community, connecting with people through wrestling, and understanding that we are all sort of under a very like consensus of almost having an obligation to each other as constituents in this sport, in this brotherhood, we call this sometimes, in this band of people who spend a lot of time together, who should have their best interest at heart for each other. And my coaches, who were a lot of Beat the Streets managers and coordinators at that point, made it a point to again make sure that myself, along with other students within the Beat the Streets organization, was getting accessibility to, you know, tutoring after school, SAT prep, things of that nature, prep for high school, or even just, sometimes just having a place to go after school. And again, I think that christened my understanding of there needing to be a again a sense of obligation to paying the way forward, for people that come after you, because everyone is a culmination of all the people in their lives that they have met that have helped them get to this point, starting with your parents and your family. But again, we're all byproducts of the people we know. So I think from there, I just made it a point to again keep people within my network that I could relate to closely for whatever reason. I knew had my best interest at heart, and could again point me to resources, could point me to the right places to do career exploration, to do exploration for my interests and things of that nature. And that comes in many different shapes and forms. I have mentors who I've met through school that are teachers of mine. I have mentors who are coaches. I have mentors who are older relatives of some friends I've met through life. And I have mentors through work like Carson, my former manager Adam at Paramount CSR, um, that I have strong relationships up to this day because I made sure to cultivate what we mutually built with all of my mentors, and understanding again it it takes a village to raise a person. No matter how old you get, it takes again understanding your connections to the other people in your life, and understanding again how you can all serve each other to make whatever you want come true, to be successful in life, no matter how you define that. So
Gonna piggyback off of that, Harold. I've never had direct mentors, but I've always gravitated towards people who had ideas that aligned with mine, ideals. So even stemming to some of my first internships, right? I chose a company that gave back a lot to their community. Like they were heavily vested in volunteering with everybody, like local food banks and things like that. Even when I chose on where I wanted to live, like where I wanted to buy a house, I found a community where people want to, help clean up the streets, pick up trash, or there's this team of artists who throw an annual Halloween parade, and the parade floats are like majestic. They're Disney quality. I'm not even kidding. I'm like, wow, the community made that. Like y'all got together and you did that together. So and I honestly think that's what gravitated me towards Nickelodeon. You see how much they push back to the community, and it's mentorships come in different forms. It's not always that one-on-one or even like in the group setting. It can always be, you know, you seeking out what you want to do, how you want to help, and um, and I feel like it's a lot easier these days because of social media to even find a mentor too, right? Or even just like, yeah, I honestly think that's like Harold's experience is so different from mine, but at the same time, it landed us in the same area. Like it landed us together. And for me, I always think like everything happens for a reason, but you have to put the work in to get there. Like you have to manifest what you want out of life, and um, seeking out those connections. That's what puts you forward. Alex?
Yeah, I definitely resonate with what both of you said. Darian, I also haven't had too many like direct mentors. But I do want to get more specific because I'm just curious, is anybody here like interested in going to like the art side? So like design, drawing, painting, like for anything in particular? I saw someone say it earlier, so I'm going to keep talking anyway. But basically, so I had a professor at USC. So the funny thing is, at art school, a lot of it is fine art, which is great. It's a wonderful world in its own, but it's also very different from like art for animation. But I did have one professor who was absolutely lovely. She actually worked on several cartoons for us. So if y'all know like Steven Universe, We Bear Bears, she designed props and characters for them. She actually designed Pearl's prototype for Steven Universe, which was, I don't know, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. But my favorite thing about her is that she definitely pushed me as an artist to my absolute limit. But not in the way where it's like she was trying to make me conform to a certain style, which I think happens every now and then, which is not like everyone's favorite thing in the world, but it happens, right? But what she would do was look at our styles, understand our goals for the future, and just push us as far as she could in that direction, which is often way outside our comfort zones. But she was definitely the professor who got me to start painting more like elaborate backgrounds, to try different rendering styles with my characters, or they like even pushed me to like props because I had not touched like prop design at all. But like if you want to go into design for animation, props is a really great place to start, right? Or even like color design, which some studios have, some studios don't. I know Nickelodeon has color styling as like a certain department. So of course it depends on the studio you're applying to, but these are all areas that you should like look into if you want to go into art for animation, as well as looking for folks who are best going to support those goals. And of course, like if people don't quite understand what art for animation looks like, that's nothing against them. They're probably just in a different sector of art, which is also totally fine and valid. But it is really useful when you do find those folks who understand like your goals or have had the same goals before, and are thus more able to give you like direct advice or guidance into how to best improve your art in that direction. Because there are so many different ways you can take it. But if you want to go into like if you're just like in love with character design, you want to find folks who have also done character design at some point or are currently doing it now, or like background design, background paint. If you want to go into animation itself, like the actually drawing like the movements of characters and stuff, you want to find those resources or people who have worked at animation studios. Um, yeah, it's a whole thing, and there are so many different areas to go into. So a lot of it is knowing what you want to do yourself, or at least have like a broad idea of what you want to do. Because like, look, I don't have no idea what I want to do in particular, right? I know in the broad strokes what I want to do, but I can't tell you what my dream job looks like right now. Um, but it's that fine line of like having an open mind, but also knowing like, oh, in general, I want to go into maybe writing scripts. I want to go into sound design. I want to go into voice acting, or I want to go into designing, right? Knowing those things is definitely going to help you find mentors who can help you achieve those goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it all comes with just putting in again the time and effort and exploring your passions and understanding it's just never too late, it's never too early, and there's always people out here that want to help you get into the door. Um, so I think with that being said, well, first I would like to say that I'll speak for myself. If there's anyone who's interested in again learning more about my particular pathway, have a lot more questions that they think I can answer, feel free to hit me up, find me on LinkedIn, email me or whatever. I'm always down to answer questions and helping someone else find their path. With our wonderful conversation today, we'll do like one last question, and then maybe if we have time, source um, a last question from the crowd. But Darian and Alex, what has been your favorite things to work on in your time as a Nickturn? Um, whether that be an event, a project, a show, whatever the case may be.
That's really hard because there's been so many different things I've got to do.
Yeah.
Um, there was one project that I absolutely adored, and I got to design swag for the Texas Austin Film Festival. We got to design bandanas to give out, and I like looked at it at the end of the day. I go, oh my god, I made this. Like, how many people are gonna be wearing this at this festival that I make? Like, this is me. So, uh, that was pretty fun. Alex.
Gosh, yeah, I don't. There's like, oh, there's so much stuff that we do. Like, it's actually so hard to choose. I guess for me, like I love working on Transformers because it's so cool to see like things go from storyboards to server animation to final animation. So I'm going to choose a pretty easy one and say breakdown sheets. So it depends on like what the need is, but basically like breakdown sheets can like break down like when a character talks or like when a certain model appears. It's anything, any of those things. But what's really cool about working on that is working away on it and like you're kind of in your own world where it's like, okay, like I gotta like scrub through this animatic and make sure everything like I got the right time code, I got the right characters, whatever, right? And you're like, then you kind of finish it and you're like, okay, it's done, I'm done, right? But then when the episode comes back from the animation studio, and you get to watch it in full, it looks so gosh darn cool because you're like, wow, I didn't do any of the drawings for this, but I did help them decide when they got to put this model in. And maybe that sounds lame to some people. I get that. But to me, that's just the coolest thing ever because it genuinely looks so pretty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a show that people are going to watch. Like, people are going to see this. People are going to grow up on this. I can't fathom that. But every time I think about it, I like, it just reminds me, like, that's why I'm here because that is such a cool goal. Harold.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are both fantastic things, and yeah, I mean, it's tough to choose, man. It's tough to choose. I think just in general, I again enjoy just all of our classes that we get to sit up on, and all of the other wonderful folks at Nickelodeon that do that are a part of what makes up what we do. Is always wonderful. And last week, or the week before last, we got together as a group and we watched the Loud House movie, and then we got to hear from a bunch of people who worked on it. And I think what was most interesting for me was hearing, the process of them going through how to figure out how to end the movie, and they went through a bunch of different variations, testing out different versions with crowds and things of that nature. And as someone who's interested in writing, um, and honestly, world building and character building, um, bringing those things to life is just always, one of the best things that I think I can see as, a Nick turn here, and to be able to see it for, again, shows we grew up on. So I think it was last semester when we met Mike and Brian, the creators of Avatar. Um, and I still like geek over that, like every time I bring it up. Like that was just something that, again, like if you could go back in time and tell the kid me that you would meet the creators of Avatar one day, like I don't think he would believe me. Like he would he would just start freaking out, like completely geeking. Um but yeah, that's part of the blessing of being here. And then again, I get to pay it forward. So it's maybe my favorite thing we've been doing recently is really just with us, unfortunately being in this pandemic, but on the other side of that, being able to expand our programming location wise, even though the studio is just in Burbank. We've been, programming in Canada. We've been programming in Mexico and Latin America. We did a animation boot camp with a school called SABS in Senegal, it's the Senegalese and American bilingual school. And we did a week long animation program with kids in Dakar, Senegal, in Africa. And that again was just like, one of those moments for me where it's like there is going to come a time where the students that we work with, the students that we are teaching animation to, are going to be creating their own shows. And we've already hired a bunch of students from the community partners that we work with here at Nickelodeon. So just being able to pay it forward, understanding that it's going to come full circle, it's a dream come true for me, and especially to be able to do it here at Nickelodeon. So um, yeah, man, that's what keeps me clocking in every day. But with that being said, I know we're coming up close to time. We got about 3 minutes. So if there is any final questions from the crowd, we can take maybe one more question, or we can keep talking about what we like about our jobs, which is cartoons for the most part, getting paid for it. So can't beat that.
When you were 8, could you ever imagine that you were going to get paid to work on a cartoon? It's it really is a dream come true.
I don't know about y'all. Like, it still is absolutely whack to me that I work at Nickelodeon. Like, I cannot process that. And when I told my parents that, they were like, the SpongeBob guys? And I was like, it's the SpongeBob guys. So it's so, like, when your Asian immigrant parents know what Nickelodeon is, I was like, okay, that's pretty nice.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
nice.
No, I mean it's yeah, it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy just thinking about it. Like, for me, just growing up in West Philly, there aren't many career paths to speak of, at all. And for me to have found something that speaks so much to who I am as a person and how I understand and view life is, you know, that's bread and butter, man. That's easy money every day. Um, but yeah, with that being said, Darian, Alex, thank you for being here and presenting, your stories and your voices. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And again, if you have any more questions, if you want to set up time to chat with me, I'm always down for any and everything. We can talk anime, we can talk cartoons, we can talk sports, we can talk life. We can wax poetics, we can do it all. So consider me, part of your network now. So thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the space to present myself and my story. So
Same here.
And here as well, if you ever want to ask anything,
I'm on LinkedIn.
gosh,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, everyone's favorite.
I know. It's like, how close do we look to our profile pictures on LinkedIn?
I've been told my hair changed a lot, so yeah, have fun finding me. It's like a little scavenger hunt.
Bye, Jennifer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here, everyone. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
have one more day for the grid. It's tomorrow. So if you haven't signed up, registered for some other workshops, please do so. Thank you again, Nickelodeon, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Please,
you.
everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, the night, your evening. And yeah, it was great being here.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. We love talking about animation.